Okay, so we'll start the session. Shazia Khan, my name is Academic Writing Skills and Learning Outcome 3. So we'll be going through Learning Outcome 1 and 2 more tomorrow, okay? So you've all got an idea, because I think some of you missed the session last week. So Learning Outcome 3, to use language, style and conventions appropriate to academic writing, okay? Yes. So in the last sessions, we looked at Learning Outcome 1, and we looked in regards to what is academic purposes, and we looked at in Learning Outcome 2 the 5 effective business writing 5 C's and the 7 C's, but we'll look a little bit more at them tomorrow, okay? So we'll go through your indicative content today. So language, style and conventions. Any academic writing should conform to accepted and appropriate conventions, such as using standard English and appropriate terminology throughout. So the fact is, like we mentioned, Boniface, you mentioned earlier, that, you know, it's very important to use appropriate English because everyone's able to understand it. Also adapting the style and register to the audience, so get the audience involved. Why is it it's important to use in-text citation and bibliography? Why do you think it's so important to use that? Could you
the source you got your work from?
Yes, sources. Why is that so important that you identify your sources?
Because it's not your work.
Excellent. It's not your work, is it? And what are you doing if you're putting something in your assignment and you haven't referenced it? What are you doing? ATHE, is it? ATHE, yes.
Yeah.
What are you doing then? Are you plagiarizing?
Yes, if you don't reference it, yes.
Yes, you're copying, aren't you? You're copying someone else's work.
Yes.
But you're saying it's your work, aren't you?
Yeah.
And why is that? You can't do that, can you? Because you will get done for plagiarism. So anything you take out, any quotes, any ideas or anything from a journal or from a book, you're able to reference it. And I did show people last week some referencing apps online called and there was one called Cite, Harvard Site, and there's another one called Neil's Toolbox, which tomorrow when we're doing the assignment session, I'm going to do like an overview of all the learning outcomes, so you've got a better idea, and I'll show you Neil's Toolbox. Okay.
So I'll be happy because I missed last session.
No, it's okay, don't worry about it. What I'll do is, so today we're doing learning outcome 3. Tomorrow I'll do learning outcome 1 and 2, give you a refresher, but also show you the tools that you can use for Harvard referencing, and then we'll go through the assignment, okay? Because tomorrow's your last session, okay?
Okay.
So it's really important to use a different range of books, okay? Try to use different academic books, but also academic journals and published expert reports. It's good practice to avoid using website references all the time, okay? So if you're doing an assignment, make sure, you know, you use academic books, but also journals and websites if you want, but don't just rely on just websites, okay?
Okay.
Because things, if you rely on things like Wikipedia, do you think everything on Wikipedia is true?
No,
because you and I can add, can't we? We can put things onto Wikipedia. So everything is not true on Wikipedia. So make sure you've got an authentic website and you're using sources to reference your work, because it's so important. Key terminology. So what are pronouns? So if you look at academic English in regards to looking at why it's important, it's academic English is like writing in a convention or style, as we mentioned earlier. Generally, you need to keep your writing formal, you need to keep your tenses consistent, and you need to make sure that it should be objective, okay? Most academic writing requires you to stand back and analyze, okay? So now we're looking at the key terminology and what are pronouns. Pronouns are, definition of a pronoun is that it is defined as a word or phrase that is used as a substitute for a noun or a noun phrase, which is known as pronouns antecedents. Pronouns are short words and can do everything that nouns can do and are one of the building blocks of a sentence. Plural pronouns. So this is an example. Any of a small set of words such as I, she, he, you, it, we, or they in a language, they are used as substitutes for nouns or nouns phrases, and those referents are named or understood in context. And that's for example, that is in the table, it identifies. So if you're talking in first person, you're talking about who. Give me an example if someone's talking in a first person. It's I. If you're talking in a first person as a subject, you would say I think, I know, okay? And then in the plural for that is we. If you're talking in second person, it's you as a subject. And then plural for that is you again. Third person, he, she, it. And then when you say it as a subject, you say they. Okay, so all of them. As an object, first person is me. And then as plural is us. And the second person is you. And then as a plural, it's you again. Third person is him, her, it, and then a plural for that. An example of a pronoun is, an example I'll give you is, I asked her if the headphone were hers, but she said they belong to someone else. Okay? It might rain tomorrow, but there isn't much we can do about that. So these are examples of pronouns. And, when you're talking in a first person narrative, it's a way of telling a story through so it's, for example, I think, or we think, or this is what happened. They are singular plurals. I like shopping. That's first person, that's you. And then you talk about Harry smiled at me, and that was an example of a singular plural. And it's really important to be able to, look at your work and how you write your work, because, sometimes you will be able to give your advice in first person, and sometimes you can't give it in first person. So let's watch a video on what is academic writing and how it is used. Okay, so I'll just put this video on for you. Can you tell me if you can hear it as well then? Okay, so I'll put it on now. Can you hear that?
No.
No. Okay, so I'll have to stop sharing it, because I think when you do that, you have to stop sharing, and then I'll just put it on. Just give me 1 minute. So. Can you hear it now?
Hi, I'm Ellen. In this video, I'm going to talk about some general academic
Okay, excellent. So
writing.
just 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Ellen. In this video, I'm going to talk about some general features of academic writing that you need to be familiar with if you want to succeed in your own writing at university. First of all, you need to consider that writing is communicative. In all forms of communication, there is a sender who transmits a message to a receiver. In academic writing, that message will be a fact-based argument, and in order to successfully deliver this, you need to know who you're writing for and what you can expect your target reader to already know. In other words, identifying your audience is crucial. Another central feature of academic writing is that it's objective, which means you should avoid biased language and generalizations, and that you shouldn't bring in your personal preconceptions or opinions. An academic essay about, say, a fictional character, a political conflict, or a religious issue should present an argument that sheds light on the actual topic, but mustn't be a subjective statement on the part of the writer. Academic writing is a formal genre, and you are expected to use a rather strict register and format. This can be a challenge, especially for non-native writers, as different levels of formality might be difficult to recognise in a second language. Remember, the question of style and register in writing is not necessarily a difference between what is right or wrong language-wise, but rather specifies what is the preferred style for a specific occasion. In other words, what is right in one context may not be considered okay in another. Just as you wouldn't wear flip-flops to a formal dinner, you don't use the informal style of text messages between friends in a job application or a university essay. But how do you go about finding the right level of formality for writing at university then? Well, one way is to study texts within your specific discipline. As a university student, you have loads of helpful resources to hand. You have access to your university library resources, books as well as journals, and perhaps also student papers and degree projects written at your department. Read texts within your discipline to learn how scholars and experienced students write. Look for things like how they introduce their argument, how they define and use discipline-specific terms, and how they make use of previous research within the field. The last thing I'd like to raise here is the fact that writing practices do vary from one academic discipline to the next. This means that you need to learn what is expected of you for the particular text that you are writing. An article in physics looks very different from one in history, for instance. If you transfer from one discipline to another, you'll notice that although the basics remain the same, the way that texts are written when it comes to referencing and text structure, for instance, may differ.
So as you can see from that video that, it's really important that we identify the fact that, we've got a different style of writing for a different piece of work. Why do you think it's so important to identify our style of writing? Why do you think, like, if you're sending a text to your friend, would you do your essay in that style? The way you send
so.
No, the way you send a text message is it's very informal. But when you're doing an assignment, it has to be quite formal. So you've got to have an introduction, a main body, a conclusion, but you must know that you are addressing it to the audience. So you must be able to write in a structure, and there must be a structure that you follow. Okay, It's really, really important that you write in a style that is expected of you. Okay, for example, using Harvard referencing in all your essays. UK have asked to use Harvard referencing for everything, making sure that you, if you're doing learning outcome 1, you identify which 1.1 you're doing as a heading, and also if you're doing the extension activities, you identify that you are doing these extension activities and have a heading in them. Avoid using things like bullet points. Okay, your assignment must flow and make sense. Okay. So can you see this 3.1? Yes. Can you see this slide 3.1?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3.1 is to write accurately following accepted language conventions. So you must have the ability to explain a concept. It's really important, or an argument. So why do you think it's so important that you explain the concept or argument to the audience?
You make the audience know what you are trying to.
Yeah, excellent. What you are trying to get across to them. So you must have that ability to explain a concept or an argument to an audience, and is a skill that can be learned. So we have gone over the analysis of a question and the planning of an answer in the last session. We now need to take into account who we are addressing as our answer to. So the first is, your audience could be the person who set the question, your teacher, your lecturer. They've set the question. It could be a group of peers. or it could be a group of strangers who you've never heard of the concept you are trying to explain. Whoever your audience is, your writing must be tailored to enable your message to be understood. So if you are going for an interview, okay, at a university, and you have to act professionally and you have to do your work according to that audience, so you must prepare yourself. Now, if you're going out with friends, it's different. You know, there's the way you go out with friends and the way you are professionally doing stuff. So that's really important. You tailor everything according to the situation. For example, this is about hypertension, which we looked in the last session about. Okay, it was an example. If you said that hypertension can lead to congestive cardiac failure and myocardial infection to the doctors, that would be understood. However, the use of jargon makes it very difficult for anyone else to understand. So to a lay audience, you would say high blood pressure can stop the heart working properly and can lead to a heart attack. So if for example, if you had to say that top phrase, Boniface, for example, if you had to say that to your family or your friend, would they understand that?
No.
No. If you said to them that high blood pressure can stop the heart working properly and can lead to a heart attack, they would understand that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they understand that.
Because
yeah.
they're not a doctor. If they're not a doctor, so, you know, using you know, jargon in the, you know, field of medicine is different to a normal person. So you've got to make it clear to that person.
Yeah.
It is the simple changes that you make to the wording of your answer that will not only make the work more understandable to everyone, but also demonstrate to those assessing the work that you have understood the audience and you are presenting your work to and have demonstrated higher level thinking in the process. For example, if I'm talking about domestic violence, okay, does everybody know what domestic violence is?
Yes.
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 Okay, so but if I'm talking about it to someone who doesn't understand the law around domestic violence, will they know? They won't know, will they? If I'm talking to people that understand the concept of it, then they will know about it. So your language is really important, what you use and how you use it as well.
Right.
So an activity. What is a pronoun? A pronoun is defined as a word, as we mentioned earlier, or phrase that is used as a substitution for a noun or noun phrase, which is known as pronoun antecedents. Pronouns are short words. Write a list of third person pronouns. So we've got she, hers, herself, he, him, himself, it, itself, they, them, themselves. Okay, so I'll just ask you, if when we're looking at pronouns, okay, what could be a pronoun, a singular pronoun from there? For example, what could be a singular one?
I think it's I.
I or we, okay? What again, if we look at, what about third person?
He.
The. Yeah, he or could it be they as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are identified and these are sometimes they get quite confusing. So you know that table that you've got, that's quite easy for you to understand. Okay, if someone asks your opinion, will you write in I?
Yes.
Yes. If someone doesn't ask your opinion, you don't write in I. Okay, you write in the third person.
Okay. Yes.
So change the following sentence starters from first person to third person. Now, in a formal report, I will be arguing, this is just examples, I will be arguing that climate change is, so that's a first person, okay? I, so it's changing from the first person to the third person. Now, if you had to change that sentence, you would say they. That's the third person.
They
They
will
will be
be
arguing
changed.
that climate. Sorry, what's that? Sorry, what did he say? Sorry.
No.
Yeah. So if you argue, if you're putting in they, that's the third person, yes? So the first person is I, and the third person is they. They will be arguing that climate change is. If you're doing it in an essay format, okay, it says, as a nurse, I need to be aware of the equality and diversity when caring for patients. Is that first person?
Yes.
Yes, first person, yes.
Yes. And then as a nurse, she needs to be aware of equality and diversity when caring for patients. What's that? That would be third
Second.
person, wouldn't it?
Second
Yeah.
person.
Second
Third
person.
person, yes.
Yeah.
So then you've got C, the format of a presentation. And this is when you're presenting your work to an audience, okay? So I am going to talk about my experiment on social conformity amongst adults. First person?
Yeah.
Yes. And then he is going to talk about his experience on social conformity amongst adults. That's third person.
Second person.
So this is giving you an example, and these examples you need to use when doing your own work. It's very helpful having these examples.
Yeah.
Okay. The standardization helps to set the tone of the work you are writing. So the tone is the manner or characteristics of the writing itself. The following elements help to create the tone of academic writing: formal writing style, maintaining an impersonal or third person tense, for example, not using I, use of sophisticated vocabulary relating to the question being asked, for example, avoid using slang terms or abbreviation. So when, try to avoid using jargon or any slang language, and try to, avoid using abbreviations, okay? It is important to be able to recognize different styles of writing as they are linked to different audiences. So far, we have considered academic writing, but in the activity that follows, you will see the effect of adapting the style and register of language to suit different formats and audiences. 3.2, use appropriate style and register showing an awareness of audience. So what is writing style? Writing style at level 3, you will need to be able to adopt a style of writing appropriate for the task. This skill requires to understand the audience and the purpose of the task. So you need to know the task purpose. Why is it important to know the purpose of the task?
Be able to communicate effectively.
Yeah, but also if you know what the task is, are you going to do your work around that task?
Yes, please.
Yes. Yes, so it's so important to understand the audience and know the task, and that equals adopting the correct formality and tone. And this combination is called, as we stated earlier, a register. The style. So all texts have a style. The style is usually determined by the audience and the purpose of the text. Styles include factual, academic writing, official writing, instructional, journalistic, and fictional. These are different styles that are used. We're going to go through each one so you've got an example of what you know. Factual writing can be found in many places: newspapers, magazine articles, textbooks, on the internet, etc. Factual writing will usually be a formal style, so using long, complex sentences. It's backed up with statistics and evidence. It may have footnotes, quotations, or other forms of reference. It will be well organized and have a clear layout so information can be easily found. And it may use diagrams or charts to explain complex data. It will introduce its subject, then follow it with a balanced argument. And it will summarize its main points in a conclusion. So these, as we mentioned earlier, could be things. Factual writing could be in newspapers, magazines, any sort of news reports, interviews, recipes, instructions. These could be factual writing. Then we've got academic texts. Academic writing is similar in style to factual. It will include the elements of factual writing, but may be even more detailed and precise. It will avoid any omissions or errors, as it will most likely be examined in great detail. It will be clear and logical. It needs to be, it has to be focused on what you are writing about, and it needs to be clear, concise, okay? It may be dry or not fun to read because its purpose is to educate, not entertain. Academic writing may offer other sources on the subject written about to add further balance. It will usually include technical or very specific vocabulary. So it's very important that you look at in regards to what vocabulary you use. Official text. Official writing includes letters. So anything sent to anyone is quite official. Business proposals, any sort of press releases, among many. Its style includes formal language, polite language, especially in letters. Why is it important to use polite language in letters?
It's a sign of respect.
A sign of respect, sign of professionalism, isn't it? You're being a professional if you're writing in polite language as well. Yeah. Possible specific or technical elements. It's extreme detail, especially in legal documents. Possible archaic language, including like Latin, neutral and impersonal language. And also in formal writing, the writer also use a more objective approach. So here they're stating the main facts and then supporting these with arguments. Formal writing is less emotional in style, so it avoids things like exclamation mark or any sort of emojis or anything like that. Instructional text. Instructional text may include wikis or manuals. Their style includes instructional language, imperatives, and what is instructional text? What do you think it is?
Someone is passing information to you to pass to another person.
Someone passing in information. Okay, so give me an example.
For example, manual.
Sorry, like, what's that?
For example, when you buy like a washing machine.
Excellent, excellent example. Thank you. Yes. Also, if you buy a board game, an example of a board game. If you buy a board game, it gives you instructions, doesn't it? If you buy Monopoly, do you all know what Monopoly is? If it is a board game, any board game you buy, it will give you instructions. Any, you know, if you buy a recipe, if you get a recipe book, does that give you instructions?
Yes.
Yes, it tells you how to cook something from stages, okay? Yes. So instructional language is imperatives, technical vocabulary specific to the subject. So if it's a recipe, they use textual features such as illustration, diagrams, bullet points, and advisory language. So could, should, might, and it's precise. So it could range from, you could have recipes, or like you said, if you get a washing machine, you know, the instructions with a washing machine will be there. And, you know, like instruction, imperative words could be things like, you know, instruction text could be if you put the cake in the oven or put the cake mix in the oven, you insert the disc and then press play. It could be things like you will put the washing powder in and then press the temperature. So these are really important for you to use, and these are there to help and support individuals when they are doing stuff. So, you know, it's mainly instruction manuals, okay?
Yeah.
Then we've got journalistic text. So journalistic texts range from tabloid to serious newspapers, magazine articles, and online pieces. They can vary in style depending on the seriousness of the writer. Let's look at two styles. So there's two styles here. Serious broadsheet journalism, and this has to be logical approach to the subject. It should be a serious subject matter. Opinions made by writers are often thoughtful and balanced. There's more text and fewer images, so less eye-catchy. Why do you think it's less eye-catchy, the serious newspapers? What are they there to do? They'll have less pictures in. What if I give you an example of an issue to do with terrorism, you know, and they want to get something out to the public? It's a serious subject matter, isn't it? So they don't need to have pictures in. They don't need it to be catchy. They just want the people, the public, to know about it.
Right.
And then you've got opinion pieces, and these are tabloid journalism. These are more emotive. There's a range of different subject matters, and opinions can vary from mild to extreme. They're quite eye-catching, aren't they? Because they use images to imply a meaning. So this could be talking about any sort of opinions where they use images, whereas in the serious one, they don't necessarily use images. And, you know, journalistic writing is non-fiction writing, but if it differs from traditional non-fiction because it's objective. The whole point of a journalist is to inform the audience of the topic at hand, such as writing should not persuade someone to take a particular side. Journalistic writing relies on facts and evidence to remain objective, and also known for its brevity and clarity, so the types of audience. So, you know, it needs to, if someone's writing about a storybook about children, which kind of audience is it attracting? Who's it attracting? If they're writing about a character in a storybook or a cartoon character, what kind of audience are they attracting?
Cartoon
Children.
children.
Children. Yeah.
Children, young
Yeah.
children. So if it's something that's eye-catching to young children, that's the way they attract them. And, you know, journalists, that's their job, to attract their audience. We've got fictional texts. Fictional texts are stories, poems, novels, scripts, and so on. Here are their key features. They often use flowery and imaginative language. So like stories, you know, you kind of identify the language, quite flowery and imaginative language. They will have imaginary characters and situations like in books and poems. They may take an unusual style, like poetry with a different style of line spacing or paragraphing. They will not quote sources of research unless they're historical novel or a work based in reality, and the longer text will be organized into acts, chapters, or episodes. Why do you think it's so important to have these different styles of writing?
To give the
Because we might-
reader a
because we-
clearer view.
Sorry, what was that?
To
give
give
what?
to give the reader a clearer view or
To
clearer
give
understanding.
yeah, about the subject area, you know, so, you know, the reader is able to identify what area they're looking at, and, you know, to give them a clear idea. 3.3, use accurately a standard form of referencing, reflecting a range of sources. So this is a list of useful terms for the unit academic writing skills. Academic writing is clear, concise, focused, structured, and backed up by evidence. Its purpose is to aid the reader's understanding. It has a formal tone and style, but is not complex and does not require the use of long sentences and complicated vocabulary. So these are some of the references we've used in today's session, okay? Has anyone got any questions? Has anyone got any questions? Because we've done learning outcome 1 and 2, and today was learning outcome 3. Tomorrow is assignment session, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you you know, an overview of learning outcome 1 and 2, and briefly on what we've done today, so you've got a better idea of doing your assignment. Has anyone got any questions?
No.
No, the only
No.
question is just to have a better understanding on the previous section, please.
No, I'll go through that with you tomorrow before we do the assignment discussion, okay? So you've got a better idea. Please use Moodle for getting any resources or anything. And these are really good websites: Future Learn, Library Development, Canterbury ACG. So it helps you with Harvard referencing, and also on plagiarism. These are websites that you can use, okay? There's some websites here also, and books: Academic Skills Handbook, Thinking and Communicating at University, and some links there for you to go. If you have any issues, you need to go to learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, and submission of your assignment will be done via learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, and it's 2 weeks after the unit is finished. So tomorrow is the unit will finish, and then you will be doing your assignment, which we'll go through tomorrow as well. And then you must submit that on LearnerWork. Make sure you're using Harvard referencing, and make sure you're checking your grammar, and make sure you avoid using bullet points, and it needs to flow. And you need to identify clearly what you are doing in each assignment, which we'll go through more tomorrow. Okay?
Okay. Yeah,
Has
that's
anyone
fine.
got any questions?
Can we get this outcome learning on YouTube, please?
Sorry, what's that?
Can we get it on YouTube? If you go
Get
to
what on
YouTube,
YouTube?
This section.
this
Yeah, this
section.
session, this session will be recorded, and then they will put it on Moodle for you, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
And then all the sessions are on Moodle that you can get access to.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, you can get access to all the sessions on Moodle. Tomorrow's session is an overview of the 3 learning outcomes, and then what we'll do is tomorrow we'll do the assignment discussion as well. But you'll get recordings of all of them, okay?
That's
Okay.
fine. Very
Excellent.
nice.
Okay.
And please
Okay.
make sure that you attend tomorrow, because it's very important, because it'll help you towards the assignment, okay?
Okay.
Yes. That's right.
Thank you for your patience,
Thank
and
you
thank
very
you for
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you
today's
very
session.
much. Thank you.
And I will see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.